All right. We are live. Welcome in, everybody. I hope everybody is doing good today. Wait for everybody to get in here. Rolling in. Hello from Istanbul. Beautiful. Just checking in from Taylorsville, Kentucky. Go Big Blue. Don't know about that last part, but Lancaster, England. Nice. Dexter, you are on time. Hello from Dubai. Awesome, boys. Awesome. We're just waiting for everybody to get in here, and then we'll get it started. No big rush. Sevastopol, eh? Nice. Beautiful. We got quite a bit to talk about today. I'm going to just let it get to like 2 minutes, and then we'll get right into it. I hope everybody is doing beautifully. Had an amazing week. It's 12 a.m. Well, thank you, Alternative Disbelief, for being here today. I appreciate you, brother. Kazakhstan says hello. Well, hello to Kazakhstan. Sweden. Hello from Colorado, just to my north. Hello, Chihuahua country. Chihuahua is how I say that. Chihuahua, which everybody gets mad at me around here because they say it the way that you're supposed to say it, and I don't. Hello from Stuttgart. Luhansk, Rotterdam, Moscow. Beautiful, everybody. Beautiful. Well, welcome in from all around the world. Thank you for choosing this hour or however long you stay in here with me to listen to me rant and rave and show you updates and do all that good stuff. I appreciate each and every one of you more than you know. Remember that if you want your questions answered live on air, you can always ask those through Super Chats. I answer every single question asked through Super Chat. If you have other questions, go ahead and throw them up in the chat. We can talk about them. I might look at them. I don't get to all of them when I do that. But don't forget that if you're new here, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you're old here, you should have already known that. And if you didn't, I'm disappointed in you. We got a lot to talk about today, a lot of updates, and a lot of larger geopolitical plays happening, a lot of things moving. So we're going to get into that definitely. Let me just think. What should we start with? I usually start with the updates, but I think I'm going to take it in a different direction today, just slightly. So in the greater geopolitical battlefield surrounding Ukraine, there's a bunch of moving parts, and I've told you guys time and time again that no negotiated settlement or agreement is going to come out of the Alaska trip that Putin took, or any of the negotiations that have been happening in Istanbul or any of these other places. It's just not even really worth paying attention to, and I've said that for some time because Europe's position, Ukraine's position, and the U.S.'s position are so devoid from reality, from even each other, that there's never going to be a way that they can agree with Russia altogether on what path to go forward and how they're supposed to handle the resolution of the Ukraine conflict. And on a deeper level, I'm convinced that the US and Europe don't want the war to end. It does not suit them to have the war end. I think that they're in a hole, so it's not a good thing that it's continuing. It's a net negative on the Western alliance that this is happening. But Russia's bogged down, right? Russia is not, fortifying Syria right now. They lost Syria. They lost Assad. They're stuck in Ukraine. I believe that the sanctions were supposed to do more damage to Russia than they did. So we're kind of in this spot where, yes, Russia is in a slogfest in Ukraine, right? That's a reality. That's what's going on. But the U.S. is also stuck in this slugfest with Russia, and not directly, but in terms of material support, in terms of the diplomatic reaching that they have to do to continue to support this. And it's only going to get more and more difficult. And you can see the U.S. really starting to back off, take a step back, and try to sort of manage from a distance, pushing all of the weapons through Europe. And now Europe is really stepping into their rah-rah sort of attitudes about Ukraine. Most recently, we had a meeting of the European nations, Britain, France, Germany, Poland, the big players. The other ones were there, but they're not as important. And they all came together and they basically said that the second a ceasefire happens in Ukraine, 26 nations are willing to send a coalition of the willing, which I've talked about many, many times before, to Ukraine to act as peacekeepers after a ceasefire is agreed upon. This is hilarious. This is a hilarious thing to come out and say, because one of Russia's key positions from the start was that there's not going to be any foreign troops inside of Ukraine, right? The whole point is to make Ukraine a non-NATO threat to Russia. That's the whole issue with this entire conflict. So the European nations coming out and immediately saying, guys, we're going to send troops the second you agree to a ceasefire, means that Russia absolutely cannot agree to a ceasefire anymore. Not only for their own benefit, but it would be going back on their own statements where they said no NATO troops in Ukraine, this, that, or the other. It's a red line that they're not wanting to cross, right? And that's why they say we're waiting for a ceasefire. They don't want to send their troops in while the war is going on because they could be targeted, then that would escalate. No, the whole idea is save as much of Ukraine as you can by putting a tripwire force into Ukraine. And so I'm just going to go ahead and, I'm going to appeal to your guys' logical nature here and say, stop listening to what any politician has to say. They just outright lie, and they never are actually working in the direction that they speak about. And this is particularly from the Europeans. There is no push for peace. There's only a push for the continuation of the war. There is no there's no goal, though. So this is the bigger problem, is that while Europe is wanting the war, there's no end game for Europe. So the elites in these countries are not working in the interests of their populations. Obviously, you guys know that. Anybody from Europe knows this. And, they're just doing the absolute minimum to appear as though they are trying to help Ukraine, but in fact, creating non-starters that ensure Ukraine's destruction. And again, this is what I've said for years at this point now. Europe and the US never wanted Ukraine in NATO. They never wanted Ukraine in the EU. Ukraine is a corrupt little country at the very edge of Eastern Europe, and they're all Russian. Whether you think they're Ukrainian or not, they're Russian. And that's how the Europeans look at them as well. They're Slavs. They're just like a lower class to the European elites. It's how it seems to me. The way they talk about them, the way Lindsey Graham talked about the Russians, and just the sort of attitude, the supremacist attitude that the West has towards this region and these groups of people is mind blowing to me. I don't really understand it. So no, Ukraine is not an ally. Ukraine is not a friend. Ukraine is not to be supported. Ukraine is a tool. It is a hammer, and you are going, and the West is going to use that hammer for as long as they possibly fucking can until that hammer breaks. When that hammer breaks, they're not going to pay to repair the hammer. They're just going to go get a new hammer, right? It doesn't make sense to have Ukraine be a huge welfare state that has been rocked by a war, depopulated. Ukrainians have left. The population is way smaller than it was pre-war. A lot of Ukrainians have died. The economy has been completely reduced. It's just going to be like a very large Greece to the EU. And that's not what they want. Ukraine is better burnt and destroyed with the Russians dead inside of it than it is peaceful and a part of the greater alliance. Now, if they could get a full stop to the war right now and get troops in there, they would do it. But again, there is an opponent that they have to negotiate with, and that's the Russians, and they're not going to do that. So just from the whole, and this is just talking about the recent statements from Macron and from Keir Starmer and Merz in Germany, Merz? I think that's how you say his name. It's just goofy. It just shows you exactly what I've been saying the entire time. They want the war to continue. Arms sales continue. Shipments to Ukraine continue. They're talking about moving, Ukrainian missile production outside of Ukraine, which it's not Ukrainian missile production, it's NATO missile production. And then those missiles are being delivered to Ukraine. So again, another escalation. They're trying to figure out what more missiles they can send to Ukraine to cause more damage to Russia. It's just as I had talked to you guys about. This war will be fought to its conclusion. And you can just take Lindsey Graham on his word. I know I told you to never take politicians on their word, but Lindsey Graham is a particular individual. And, when he was in Ukraine, he said, this money that we're giving to Ukraine is the best damn money we've ever spent because it's killing Russians. That is the bottom line in this entire thing, is that the U.S. wants Russia engaged in this conflict, and they want to use that to then continue to control the world order. Unfortunately, as we've seen with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting in Beijing over the weekend or earlier this week, I think it was just earlier this week, we saw a number of nations all gathered. This was China, most importantly, China, Russia, and India. And this is very important because this is more than half of the world, or this is about half of the world, right? You're talking about all of Asia, almost. Obviously not all of Asia, but the big players in Asia are all on side with each other now. And that's not good for America. America's threats to India to stop buying Russian oil did not work. The Indians outright said no. Modi looked very happy there with Putin. They were all shaking hands. It looked like it was a pleasant time, honestly. It looked like what the West thinks they look like. That's what the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting looked like. It was very different than the meetings we see in the Oval Office or in Brussels with all of the European leaders. It's like those people don't even like each other. And I'm not saying that Xi and Putin and Kim and Modi all like each other and they're all best friends. That's not what I'm saying. But it looked like they were allies instead of vassals. Xi was walking side by side with Putin. Putin was talking to Xi's wife, Kim, who has not left North Korea, has not entered China in a number of years, was invited as well. There was a North Korean delegation there. So it was really I think it was just a slap in the face to the West, showing them that they had failed in their goal of pulling apart the greater Chinese sort of, not the greater China. Let me rephrase that. Pulling apart the alliance that could support China, who is the up and coming competitor to the United States. That seems to have failed. The sanctions on Russia to pull the Russia-Chinese relationship apart has failed. Threats towards India to stop buying Russian oil has failed. Why would India do that? They're making a killing off of Russian oil. And who are they selling it to? The Europeans. And so now the U.S. is even threatening the Europeans to stop buying oil from Russia. Particularly, I think, Hungary and Serbia. I think those are the two that are still buying Russian oil. They threaten those directly. But it's funny that they're threatening them, but not the Europeans who are buying Russian oil at a premium from the Indians. And they're not threatening them because the Europeans don't have a choice. There's no other energy. All of the European economies would just crumble in that case. So, there's a lot of at play right now in the geopolitical sphere, but really the way it looks is that the sides are now set, or they're beginning to set much more in stone than they were previously. And I don't know. To me, it looks like the Chinese, the Russians, and the Indians and North Koreans have a plan, and the West does not. That's how it looks to me. And when I say they don't have a plan, the West does have a plan, but it's been altered and revised and critiqued so much over the last 4 years after, the war in Ukraine kicked off. Everything in the Middle East has been going on. The U.S. is on a clock, right? They have to get ahead of China now while they have the opportunity. And instead, We're still dealing with Gaza. We're still, the Iranian regime isn't overthrown. We're talking about overthrowing Venezuela. We're talking about, still sanctioning the Russians and all. The U.S. hegemony is just shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And it's almost not the hegemony anymore. With everybody saying no, I think the time of U.S. hegemonic rule is over. The U.S. is still the strongest, and they are still the empire, but we are not the hegemon that we used to be. Absolutely, and that's very clear by the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting, which Trump was pretty salty about. It seemed he put out a tweet that was like, "How dare you conspire against the United States with Putin and Kim?" It's very goofy. So, yeah, that's sort of the geopolitical look, at least from my opinion. I'm trying to think. If you guys have anything else you want to add, go ahead. I'm going to get into the updates now, so we will do that. Up, and then we have some events to talk about. Stop snoring. Stop snoring. My dog. Sorry, guys. All right. Atlas, stop snoring. There I am. All right. So we'll start down here in the south. Russian forces have just made a small advance here north of Robotny towards the village of Novodanilivka. This is not a major advance, but again, I talked about the Russians wanting to move in the direction of Orikhiv and Holyai-Polye to the west, and this is just part of it, right? Just putting pressure along this entire line and forcing either Ukrainian rotation to hold it or advancing like we're seeing here. And this is just, again, a small advance, nothing to be like over dramatic about in any way, but another advance in the direction of Orikhiv. All right, moving over, we can see in the Dnipropetrovsk region and southern Donetsk region, we have a pretty significant Russian advance. Remember that the orange is the Dnipropetrovsk region that has been secured by Russia, much like the red over here. I just am giving it a different color for the different oblast. And here we can see the advance that has come. So this pocket around Komishivka has closed, and this is the last pocket of Ukrainian resistance in the very southern Donetsk region, right? So along the Vovocha line, where this is kind of in debate right now as to how many Ukrainians are actually across the Vovocha River on the eastern side. But after that closes, that is the end for the southern Donetsk region. It's all Zaporozhye and Dnipropetrovsk over here for whatever remains, right? Let's do that there. We got some questions. 100K coalition of the willing versus Russia, who wins? Well, 100K, there's never going to be a war. So they would need a lot more than 100,000 troops if they wanted to fight a war. Those would be peacekeeping and tripwire. So all they're meant to do is prevent the Russians from starting the war again. We got another question here too. Can you comment on the Chinese military parade? I will in a little bit later after I get done with these updates. Okay, so in terms of the advances here, Russian forces have advanced to the edge of the Vovocha River here. Remember, I told you guys that this Vovocha line was going to get pushed out. Let's see, I have a prediction, upcoming prediction. Yep, right here. So this actually still follows the Vovocha line this way. The Vovocha River goes over here. But as you can see, they have almost completely pushed out the Vovocha line. And now that's going to, I think that this area of the map might freeze a little bit. Maybe not down here so much, but along this line, I don't know if we're going to see as much movement. I think there's going to be a lot more focus on Novopavlivka and then over here towards Pokrovsky and then down towards Holyai-Polye. So, I mean, if the opportunity is there, the Russians might continue, but I would not be surprised if you see some slow progress just around this sort of point right here as the months go on. All right. In these advances, obviously, the village of Vorone, which was mostly captured during this advance, has now been completely captured. Horoshe has also been captured. The village of Novoselivka. We have 3 geolocations in this village showing that the Russians do have full control up against the Vovocha line. and the village of Sheneve has also been captured here. This total advance is 19.5 square kilometers, which is roughly around 19.5 square miles, which is roughly 50 square kilometers. So that's a pretty big advance out here. Somebody said fake map, which is fine. Yeah, somebody said fake map. All of these are just gray areas, which you could say, because there is a lot of movement on the map. There's a lot of holes, right? And my map doesn't have gray area. But this is when I'm talking to you, when I'm saying this has been, there have been 3 geolocations today in Novoselivka, right? And so when we go over and we look at a COPE map, right? Like let's just say I was making a map and the United States was at war, right? And my government would put me in prison or mobilize me if I was to, I don't know, say that the enemy was advancing when the government didn't like that, right? So we can go over to one of those maps because I have it right here. I have a fantastic little map right here that is full of fucking cope. Because what the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? It's been like this for days. Let's go back. I think it's been, 2 weeks of this? It's blue. The Russians are still just cut off here. It's very interesting, right? It doesn't make any logical sense. It doesn't have to because nobody actually asks any questions. What day are we on now? The 21st. Like, it's been weeks. There we go. It's been since the 15th of August, they've said that there's been Russian troops cut off here. This map is absolute dog shit. So if you want to talk about like what maps don't make sense and what maps do make sense, if you're going off of deep state, look, they still have positions in here. Is that really what you're going to call reality? That this is gray zone? No, this is so stupid. Let's go down. Let's see. Where was it? Oh wait, this is weeks ago. Sorry, my bad. But look, that gray zone's still there. So here we go. This gray zone makes no sense. How are the Russians in there? Or how are the Ukrainians in there? They're not. This is a COPE map because they do not want to give the Russians more territory than they need to. Because every month they say, oh, the Russians gained 500 square kilometers. They've said that like every month, 438, 500, something like that. But if they actually mapped properly with geolocations, it wouldn't look like this. And so when you're looking at this map, it's usually a good indication that gray zones like this mean that the Russians are here. And we don't actually have to just go off of the gray zone because we have geolocations. We have 3 geolocations of Russians planting flags in Novoselivka. And if we actually go back, Deep State admitted that the Russians were in there, but they did so with teleportation, right? Let's go back. Oh, you can't see it. But yeah, they did so with teleportation. So somehow they got all the way over here and they held positions. And then Deep State decided, no, they actually don't hold those positions. But yes, they do. And then Deep State today says that the Russians have advanced into Koroshara, which again, along the Vovocha line here, makes perfect sense. They're just not allowed to say that they actually control it. Because if they did, they would get mobilized and sent to the front. And if you don't believe me, I can go find you a post. Let me see if I can find it real fast. Where one of the Deep State moderators in May, when the whole Deep State thing went on, where they weren't mapping anymore and they were silent for a few days. You guys remember that when that happened? One of their mappers was sent to the front and he just recently died. So that's what happens when you go against the Ukrainian government and what they want you to post. This map is not accurate. It is not, I don't know, what would you say? It's not up to date. They ignore geolocations. The territory controlled by the Russians is estimated incredibly. So no, when somebody comes at me and says like, that's all gray zone. First off, you don't fucking know. I do this all goddamn day. This is all I do, right? I look at maps all day. And I do know that it's not gray zone because we have geolocations in Novoselica. So you're wrong. You're wrong. This is not gray zone. At least this right here is confirmed to not be gray zone. There are 3 geolocations right in here. So again, no. I don't feel like putting up with that kind of, it's just funny. Let's see. All right, back to the updates. Sorry for the distraction. Moving over, just west of Udashne, Russian forces have advanced under Molodetske and into Dnipropetrovsk region. This is just another small advance. Remember, the village of Udashne had been captured. There was some questions about if the Russians actually controlled it because the Ukrainians snuck into this school and planted a flag and then ran away, right? And that's something that we're going to be talking about a lot today. There have been a lot of these flag operations going on where the Ukrainians and the Russians are just trying to get PR wins right now and putting up flags everywhere. It's kind of cancer. And I've really backed off immediately updating. I'm like on a 6 to 12 hour delay now, just because I want to make sure that it's just not a flag planting operation. So, and when we get up to Kupiansk, I'm going to show you exactly how I'm managing that. Moving over to the Pokrovsk front. Russian forces have now been confirmed. I had removed this area of Russian control because we had only seen DRG activity and had no further confirmation. We do now have confirmation that the Russians are in control of this park area, as well as some parts of central Pokrovsk, including these 2 storage unit area sort of things. I don't know. They're like, I think they're just kind of like personal storage units. Every city sort of has these because of the apartment blocks, like here. So if you live in these, I think you get one of these. That's sort of the deal. I don't know that for sure. It's just I see it in every single Ukrainian city. So a small Russian advance here, maybe not even an advance, just a recorrection of the front line where the Russians are in Pokrovsk pretty soundly. And that does mean that the final road in and out of the city is likely basically not crossable. So supply could be getting run in. I honestly don't know how. I don't know how much supply they have in the city, but it's a very difficult situation. This is a Bakhmut 2.0. And a lot of people are laughing and saying like, ooh, Pokrovsk holds. Like here, let me show you guys something here. Something funny that I actually do know exactly where it is. Our boy Ukraine battle maps over here posted this today with my, and if you guys don't know, this is my Twitter profile picture. So Pokrovsk holds, which I just think is so funny that you post this as the city looks like this. This is the situation you're in, and you're like, oh, it holds. It's like saying Bakhmut holds when there was one road going in, and the Ukrainians were getting slaughtered in and out of the city. I don't get the mental positioning a person has to be in to look at this and go, oh, this is good. Like if this was happening to the Russians, I'd be like, oh my God, the Russians are getting absolutely fucked. They're encircled. They have one road maybe in. They're getting, the city's getting pushed. Why are they holding this? They need to back up. This is not helping them. The Russians are suffering from a manpower issue, so this isn't going to work. Oh, wait. That's the Ukrainians, right? So when you're talking about a war of attrition, being in a hot pocket is not a good idea. It is not a good idea to lose men in this area for what? For PR to say you can hold the city? I mean, I'm not saying that losing the city is a good thing for the Ukrainians, but this is a tactical fucking nightmare like Bakhmut was, like Ugledar was, like we've seen time and time and time again from the Ukrainians. All right. All right, moving on to the next one, boys. Just to the south, just a small Russian advance. There is a fortified area right in here. I believe it is around this, actually, that the Russians have captured. So there is a fortification west of Lysivka that has come under Russian control. And this is an area where we haven't seen movement in forever. So I think it's very hard to approach this area of Pokrovsk, and I think it's very densely fortified through here. All right. Nothing, no changes in the Konstantinivka front. Moving up to the Seversk front, an area that we have not seen move in forever. Russian forces have entered Fyririvka and have captured most of, I don't know, again, where the city line ends. It might be up here. Captured most of the village of Przeziny. So again, Russians moving in the Seversk salient, and Seversk is now getting very, very, very tight. And if you look, Seversk is divided by the Bakhmutivka River. So the eastern part and this high ground over here is where the Ukrainians will probably have to hold. Seversk itself, the western part of Seversk, and this entire line following the river here is likely going to fall. And actually, I will make that a prediction for the next video that this will be the new line along the Bakhmutivka River right here. No changes in the forest, although I do believe that the Russians have captured most of this now, this area, because, I mean, look at it. It's very hard for the Ukrainians to hold this. So this is either gray zone here or under Russian control. And I'll wait for geolocations before I change that. But again, that puts Seversk in a much worse situation. All right. Moving up, Russian forces have made a small advance into the village of Zasherne, however you want to pronounce it. Another small advance, again, in the Liman direction, very important direction to be advancing in. To the north, Russian forces have advanced south of Shendorhove, which means that this village is now cut off from supply unless they want to, walk in this direction, but they would have to cross the Nitrius River here. So expect the village of Shendorhove to fall soon. And again, this is moving in the Liman direction. So if the Russians can get down to Drobesheve and cut off supply into Liman, it is going to make the situation in Liman much tighter. It is going to make the situation in this forestry much tighter. It's going to make the situation around Seversk much tighter. So just be on the lookout for all of that, guys. Moving up to the north. So there's a couple different things going on here that I wanted to talk about. First and foremost, Ukrainian forces were geolocated attacking into Novomykhailivka. I have not adjusted the map because, according to most sources, those assaults were destroyed. We do have a Russian advance through the village of Hulshchenkevo, which is another important advance just because it's in the direction of Borova, sort of pushing out the Oskil line and potentially closing this area, which is held strong for the Ukrainians for quite some time, and is, I believe, the last remaining area of Luhansk Oblast still controlled by the Ukrainians, right? You can make the argument that maybe some of this is controlled by the Ukrainians, but I doubt it. This is the last little 1% that the Russians need to push out to completely secure the Luhansk Oblast. So that is coming up, and that will be another sort of I guess, mile marker, kilometer marker. If we see motion towards Minkivka, it's Ukrover. Not Malakivka. Sorry, there's so many. Minkivka. Where is that at? I'm trying to... I know I've seen it before. There's just so many towns with the exact same goddamn name. Let me know where that is. I'll try to find it, but I'll move on to the next update. So this update, oh wait, I didn't finish this one, did I? Hold on. So Ukrainian forces were attacking into Novomykhailivka. I believe this was sort of a spoiling operation. The Ukrainians like to do this right before the Russians try to go assault an area. The Ukrainians will counterattack, try to improve their positions, and so on and so forth. So up to the north here, after these attacks, which have now ended by the Ukrainians, and it was the 3rd Azov Brigade, I don't know what they're called, the 3rd. It's the 3rd. It's Azov. Russian forces have advanced up here towards Druzhilivka. So 2 smaller advances, but this advance being important because it could close off the Luhansk Oblast. All right, moving up into Kupiansk. We have some geolocations, and I should probably mark the map as green here for Russian advance. But we do have a geolocation of Russian forces at this church right here. Or I'm sorry, I'm not at this church. We do have geolocations of Russians right at this point along these houses, along this street. So the Russians have advanced down into this area. Most people put sort of the dividing line along this main road that runs through, what is this called? Avtoshkala R79. So this is the Ukrainian side. The Russians are on this side. That's how it was up here, and that's how it seems to continue down here. We also have a geolocation in this area, but I was hesitant to show it as a Russian advance because there have been so many flag planting operations. And so I've just made it gray zone for now. And then over here, I have reduced the Russian control over Sablinivka and have put it back into gray zone. But I have also expanded the gray zone on the western side of Moskva. So I don't usually do gray zones on my map unless they're extremely pertinent to the situation where I need to show that there is a gray zone. There's gray zones across there's a gray zone across the entire front. I just have not mapped that because that's a lot of work. And to be quite honest with all of you, nobody actually knows where the gray zones are. Nobody knows where they start, where they end. You don't know if it's 1 kilometer long or 5 kilometers long. You just don't know. So in this particular instance, I do know that the gray zone has expanded. I have reports from Russian sources saying that this has expanded up here. However, we don't know where, so that's why I added the gray zone. All right, and I think that is it for updates today. Yes, it is. Good enough, good enough. All right, if you guys have questions, go ahead and get questions in. I don't have a ton to talk about. I did want to talk about an event that happened, and so I'm going to show something. If you guys aren't interested in that, you can fuck off. Let's see. It is a potential Russian war crime, by the way, so we are going to talk about it. I'm just getting everything set up here. All right. Here we go. So Russian forces with a Iskander missile struck just outside of the Chernihiv region. I'm going to actually go back over to my map so I can show you guys, because I marked it on my map exactly where it is. This strike occurred outside of the city of Chernihiv in this field area right here. And this is the exact location along this stretch right here where it occurred. So the strike was carried out upon a convoy of vehicles. I will just show the video so you guys can see it. That was the exact location I just showed you. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vehicles, 6 vehicles up here. But this is not what is actually struck. What is struck is this forested area down here. So there are the vehicles right here, and here you can see the strike. So I don't know if they had their positions set up here, and I don't mean Ukrainian position, because we're going to see what actually was hit here in just a second. The Russian MOD, when they released this video, claimed that they had struck a Ukrainian UAV launch point, which is very, very possible. Not that that's what this was, but what it looks like, because I'll show you a video here in just a little bit. Ukrainians regularly use these vans and trucks, white vans and trucks, for UAV launches. UAVs fit in the back. They can take it out, launch them, get back in the car, and scoot away. So here you can see whatever was in this area was completely destroyed by the Iskander. It was a very powerful strike. And then I will go out of here and show you. So this is what was actually struck. This is the area that was hit back over here. You can see that these vehicles have not suffered damage. And what they are is I think it's a Danish humanitarian organization that was doing demining in this area. So not the smartest idea to do active demining in an area that is constantly being struck by Russian missiles. The Chernihiv region is constantly under threat. And I've actually made the argument that I think that the Ukrainians are about to try to push into the Bryansk region in some small way, much like they did in Belgorod, not like they did in Kursk. Kursk was a huge operation. Bryansk, I think, is going to be a smaller operation, and I believe that is going to come very soon to be a distraction from Pokrovsk and Kupiansk being lost, which I do think is right around the corner into September and October. So this was the strike. Don't know what was exactly hit. Don't know how many people were killed or injured. The main bulk of vehicles were not destroyed, but very weird to me that you are, first off, doing this demining in this area. If we go back over to my map, I'll show you just sort of like it's not a high traffic area. I mean, there are buildings here, but it's not. I just don't see why this is so important to go demine. I know demining work needs to be done, but this is very, 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 very close to the front line, right? Or to the Russian border. It's extremely close. And I do know that it's a civilian area, but why are you doing an active demining operation? And then also, why are you not clearly marking your vehicles, right? Because I'm just going to show you another video of Ukrainian UAVs that are being launched. So you can see very similar looking vehicles, right? Not marked military, right? Just people on the ground. You might be able to tell that they're in uniform, maybe, but I can't really. You'll watch a UAV take off and then a strike will happen. And they use cluster munitions. So there's the UAV taking off down there in the bottom. I'll make it a little bit bigger. And then you can see the cluster munitions landing on the general area. And by the way, this does a ton of damage. This is probably one of the most underrated weapon systems in this war because it just looks like little puffs of smoke. But if you have ever watched cluster munitions airburst, it's just shrapnel all over the ground. So much of this area is affected by that hit. So that's sort of what I was talking about in terms of them not using marked vehicles. And if we come over here, you can see that they did have some demining going on, some flags up and stuff. And then also they did have markings, but very small markings on the hood that are not visible from a UAV. They should have huge markings up on the roofs to indicate that they are in fact civilians. And I will go over to my profile real quick and just show, never mind. I don't have the picture still, but I can just go into the video, I guess, here. And you can see no markings on this. No, like how, from a perspective of somebody who is going to press the button to launch the missile, yes, this should be investigated as a potential war crime. But in all honesty, what is the difference between this and those other white vehicles that I showed you that were launching UAVs? There's no difference. And that's why it's very important that when you're in a military situation, you don't use civilian vehicles for military activities, because it just brings that it brings the war to civilians. And this is a perfect example of humanitarian aid workers, which why the fuck are they demining this area, getting struck because they look exactly like the Ukrainian military, right? From the sky, there's no way to tell the difference unless there is a better quality video where you can see the guys in like the special vests or whatever. From this video, the way it looks to me, it looks like a bunch of ants running around white vehicles in the Chernihiv area where they constantly are launching UAVs from. Also, the Chernihiv region, as I was talking about, the Ukrainians moving into Bryansk, has been struck a tremendous amount. More than the Sumy region, more than the Kharkov region. The Chernihiv region is getting absolutely hammered right now. Iskanders, glide bombs, Lancets. There is something going on in this region, and I've been trying to like bring it up because I think you're about to see another Belgorod incursion, like a small border incursion into the Chernihiv region. And so this has been a very target-rich environment, and the Russians have just been hitting Ukrainian equipment, hitting concentration, like manpower concentrations. And Chernihiv, a couple of weeks ago, was the region where all of the training camps were getting hit, and they were having the mass casualty events in the Ukrainian army. So this is a very target-rich environment. There should not be just this demining going on. And if you are going to do demining, put fucking markings on your vehicles so you don't get bombed, right? Russia isn't Israel. They will not bomb a ambulance. They will not bomb a, like, I mean, they might, if it's like a specific instance, like a double tap on a specific target or something like that. But in this instance right here, I don't believe that the Russians would have gone through with this strike if these vehicles were clearly marked with put a Danish flag on top of it, put a bunch of Danish flags on top of it. And I bet the Russians would go, huh, that's not what the Ukrainians normally look like. Maybe we shouldn't try to kill foreign humanitarian aid workers, right? So why can't I type Israel? Can you not? It looks like you just did. Borat, I'll get to your question at the end here. By the way, I see your question, but it's off topic. So, all right. So that was the war crime that I wanted to talk about today. It was sort of a topic of discussion. And I do think it should be investigated. I'm not going to be the person who, talks about how the Israelis are just slaughtering civilians and attacking humanitarian aid workers like the World Kitchen workers and killing journalists and stuff. And then when Russia does it, I'm not going to defend Russia for, striking humanitarian convoy, but I am going to dissect it and look at it logically and try to understand what happened before I come to a conclusion. All right. Somebody had asked a question earlier about Gaza. I don't know. Guys, I just would write Gaza off. They're just going to ethnically cleanse and genocide that entire region, and probably the West Bank as well. There's not a ton to talk about. They're openly saying that's what they're going to do. We're openly supporting them in doing it. So, yeah. Not a war crime. You don't know that. You don't know that. If there was somebody in the Russia, if there was somebody who was watching that recon drone and they saw that those were humanitarian aid workers and they saw those vests and they knew that they weren't UAV launched or UAV crews and they pressed that button and launched that missile, that is a war crime. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If they had prior knowledge of that not being a military asset and they struck it, that would be a war crime. Now, you're going to have to prove that for it to be a war crime. If not, it's just collateral damage, because why are you demining in white vans that Ukrainians use for military purposes in the middle or 50 kilometers from an active war zone? Doesn't make any sense. But I'm not here to tell the Danes what to do. All right. How will you prove that? And it would have to be an internal investigation by the Russians. That's the only way. It's just like proving Israeli war crimes, right? I mean, unless it's so blatant, like the World Kitchen, the World Health Kitchen, where they were clearly marked and they had told them where the convoy was going to be moving through, and then they individually struck each car as they were driving through. That's a war crime. There's no question about it. When you kill 15 first responders or rescue workers and then bury them and their ambulance in a pile, and then how you figure that out is because you dig up that mass grave and you find a phone recording of the event. That's a war crime. When you bomb a hospital and kill 5 journalists and there's no military target, that's a war crime. When Israel drops a JDAM on a building that could potentially have Hamas in it and kill civilians, that's not really the same kind of war crime. That's a much less, instance, because that's what you would call collateral damage. Now, there is a point where the collateral damage becomes so disproportionate to the target Like when they strike a refugee camp trying to kill one person that isn't even there, and they kill 100 Palestinian refugees, right, that have been displaced. That's a war crime. So it's all about proportionality. It's all about context. It's all about how things go about, you know? I mean, I think most of what Israel does is a war crime because the population of Gaza is captive and blockaded. So they're an occupation army. It's completely different than, say, like, you know, Chernihiv region, Ukraine, where, you know, it's they can go to Odessa if they want to. They can go to back to Daneland if they want to. Yeah, the U.S. and Israel don't commit war crimes. My favorite is that Apache just lighting up those journalists and then them laughing about it. That's my favorite. That was my favorite war crime. Thanks, Julian Assange, for that one. I like to talk about those. Is Pokrovsk in the Komar direction the Russian goal? Let's take a look. I would say probably not. It's a general goal. It's the direction they want to head in. Right here, Pokrovsk. I think Propasnaya is much more important. And I think that Mezova up here is much, much more important than Pokrovsk. But as we look over here, Pokrovsk does have road connections. And yeah, I don't know why it wouldn't be. What you'll probably see is the Russians continue to advance along the southern edge of the Vovocha River until they reach this road. And then the goal is probably Holyai-Polye. I would say Holyai-Polye in this bottom corner is more important than Pokrovsk. Because there's nothing out here, guys. There's just nothing. So thank you for your comment. Double tapping journalists in a hospital has got to be the Israeliest thing I've ever seen. Yeah, that I was not surprised when I saw it, for sure. Question: are you going to comment on the Beijing? Oh yes, that's what it was. I mean, the parade. The parades are just parades, right? You put your best stuff out on show. It did look very. They brought out all of their nuclear warheads, all of their long range ICBMs, and so it was much better than the U.S.'s military parade, which was garbage. I actually think that I have satellite pictures of the days leading up to the. Let me see if I can find it real fast. Of the days leading up to the parade. So we can take a look at those and you can kind of get an idea of the scale. It's kind of hard to understand the parade. Yeah, here we go. Okay. Jake Epstein. So here we can see sort of the preparations. You can see some aircraft here. Some of them look covered. You can see the ICBMs right here. I think these are the D5s, or maybe these are the D5s. Anyway, air defense battery right here, I believe. And you can kind of just get a scale of how big the parade was. Here we can see some more equipment, air defense units, long range systems. And then here you can see some of the smaller vehicles all lined up in the parade waiting. This is a rehearsal. So yeah, there you guys go. Let me get to your question now that we're sort of done, because I'm sort of wrapping up here, so we can just talk about whatever. If you're skinny fat, what would you recommend? Would you bulk up for 3 years and then cut down, vice versa? People with that body type are fucked. Skinny fat. I think skinny fat is just skinny out of shape. I don't think skinny fat is a real thing. If you're a skinny person, it's hard to be fat. If you're a fat person, you're fat. I mean, if you have like a little belly, is that what you're talking about? First thing I would do is I would do a hard deficit and I would get rid of all that fat. I would do a little cut and get as shredded as I possibly could. And then I would clean bulk to the best of your ability. in terms of your protein, getting your protein in as clean as possible. For me, I eat McDonald's like once or twice. Or not, whatever. I just said McDonald's, but any fast food, I need calories. I also drink a bunch of Gatorade. So if you're a skinny guy, you should have a high metabolism or a quicker metabolism than like a mesomorph or an endomorph, like the bigger guys. And I would not do a 2 to 3 year bulk. That is way, way too long. Bulking should be a 3 to 6 month process. And then you should cut down and then do another bulk where you build that up. Because if you are a skinny individual and you're just getting fat off of the bulk, that's really difficult. Now, if you're doing a 2 year bulk and you're just like gaining and you're just looking better and it's going good for you, that's fine. Because that's sort of what I've done. I've done like long bulks like that because I stay between 10 to 15% body fat just naturally. That's just where I sit. So thank you for your question. Popeyes is fucking better. That's not even a question, dude. Popeyes is one of the best fast food restaurants in existence. The spicy chicken sandwich is delicious. Their wings, their ghost pepper wings are so good. And then their chicken strip meal, dude. I get one of those family meals that has like 20 chicken strips, like 60 barbecue sauces, and I just crush that. It's so many calories. It's so good for you. Bad for you. Good for the soul. The problem is that you're showing the territory as controlled by the Russians based off of PR flags. This is turning into the special flag operation. Except I'm not. What are you talking about? I literally have an area of my map. Right, I told you, Novoselivka has 3 geolocations in there. Flag planting operations are what we were talking about up here in Kupiansk, where I did not adjust the map based off of those geolocations. This entire thing should be green right here. This should also be green up here. But I didn't do it because I was concerned about it being a flag planting operation. God, fuck. I gotta get that out. No, it's not rage bait. I just like being rageful. That's just my natural position. I hate people that tell me what I'm doing like they know what I'm doing. No, you're only going off of flag operations. Really? Because if you were just listening, I just said I was not adjusting this particular front line because of the flag planting operations. Scott, you have a banner for that guy. I do have a banner for that guy. I have a ticker for that guy. Boom. You have a banner for that guy. Yes, I do. Yes, I do have a banner for that guy. You are right. Thank you. I forgot about those. I need to make some more of those. Those are good. Scott entertaining the retards too much. Yeah, no. Bro, they built me. I've said this time and time again. The retards, the dumbasses, they built me. They made my career. All I do all day is just dunk on the stupidest fucking people on the internet. And it is so fun. And they think that I'm such an idiot. And they think that I'm so stupid and gullible or whatever. And it is fantastic. I literally got Ukraine battle maps. I left one little comment on his post. And he went and he made an edit and that said Pokrovsk holds with my picture in it. Bro, you couldn't pay me enough to make a meme about Ukraine battle maps like that. And particularly, I would never make one that says a city holds while it's encircled from 3 sides. How fucking stupid do you have to be? I'm going to now use that meme in 2 months or 3 months or 4 months or whenever the fuck Pokrovsk falls, because it doesn't matter. You're in an attrition warfare. If you want to sit in a pocket all day and let the Russians just slaughter you, fine. Like, how is that a brag? How is being encircled a good thing? Like, what sort of German 1942 mindset do you have where that's where you want to be, is just right in a good old pocket? No sense. Can't make sense of it. Have you seen the chit sketches on YouTube? No. Send those to me. DM me on Twitter or Telegram. Question. Now that India has refused to be bullied into stopping its purchase of Russian oil, what do you think Trump is going to do next? I don't think they have any plan. Trump just keeps saying something's going to happen. Something's going to happen, but never says what it is, never gives any direction. So I think he's just stalling because he really doesn't have any calibrated. I showed geolocations. This is another flag planting operation, and I'll show you guys exactly what happened. Ukraine took Deshane and Dnipropetrovsk Oblast south of Novopavlivka, and they said that Ukraine controls half of. Yes. So again, I'll show you exactly what happened. Actually, there was a video that came out, and it was in right here. Is this what you said? I can't remember if this is what you said. I thought you were talking about down here. Yeah, this is where you were talking about. So yeah, this area right here was sort of in the gray zone, and there was Ukrainian DRGs or units that were spotted in here. But this entire front right here is kind of porous. So this is not like the Russians definitely control this line right here. That's not what my map shows. And if that's what you think it shows, you just don't have basic logical reasoning skills. Why wouldn't the Ukrainians be able to walk over into here, right? Do you think that there's Russians positioned along this entire line, right? Or back in this line or over here? Like, do you think that there's like forts that the Russians are just sitting in watching everything? No, there's units that are in tree lines, but it's gapped and it's spaced and logistics are difficult. And it's just a very fog of war sort of situation in this area. And we saw actually a video of 2 Russian soldiers getting gunned down at point blank range right here by a Ukrainian who they didn't know was Ukrainian. They met up with them and they thought that they were Russian. And then as soon as they turned the back, the Ukrainian just executed both of them. But it was one Ukrainian soldier right here that was walking with 2 Russian soldiers because the Russians thought that he was Ukrainian. So no, the Ukrainians do not control the city. They just have a porous line where DRGs or guys that are stuck can get mixed up and confused. And so this is not a solid picture of the front line. It's just a general idea of what the front line looks like. Oh, fuck, I didn't pop up the map. God damn it. God, fuck me. Okay, so here's what I was talking about. This is where the Ukrainians shot the Russians, these 2 right here. This is the city. This is the town that he's talking about. So this area is not, it's porous. Like the Russians can go this way, the Ukrainians can go this way. It's just a general idea of my map. And then the other area I was talking about was down here where the Ukrainians walked in, and there were some geolocations of a few Ukrainians in this area. You could consider that gray zone if you want. I would say just in general, just when you're looking at any map, the first kilometer on either side. So like this is gray zone. You should just assume that that's gray zone and can change back and forth. That should just be your like starting position. Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. Doesn't post up the map, just sitting here talking, and you guys are just looking at my eyes while I'm like clicking and looking around like a coke fiend. No, they didn't. They're not wearing the bands anymore the same way that they used to. The Ukrainians aren't, and especially guys that are DRG recon units. No, why would you? Right? Just drawing attention to yourself. Yeah, I am caffeine. This is caffeine. Oh, you guys can't see me. Hold on. I messed up again. This is caffeine. This thing I'm drinking is Mio Energy. Sponsorship. Paid advertising. I like you guys. You guys are fun. What's going on, MJ? Any more questions, guys? I'm about to wrap it up. So if you have any questions at all, go ahead and get them in. We can talk. Yeah, no, I've got pretty bad insomnia, so I'm up a lot at random times in the night. It's good when you're covering the Ukraine war, but the other night, I actually stopped smoking weed like entirely. I feel like I've been perpetually high for 3 years, so I'm taking a little bit of a tolerance break, maybe a permanent break. And yeah, just no appetite and unable to sleep. And I forgot that I'm a manic, crazy, like I'm just a crazy person when I'm not high. So I got ADHD, and there's a lot going on. And the weed just sort of brings me down to the normal human level. And then when I'm not at that level, I start going crazy. Okay, so everybody says try melatonin. So melatonin doesn't actually, it helps you get to sleep, but the problem is that I won't stay asleep. So I'll take like some sleeping medication. I have tried different kinds, and I will fall asleep for about 10 minutes, and then I wake up, and then I fall asleep, and then I wake up, and it's just like that all night. And that's almost worse than just being awake, honestly. When you're up and down like that, it like messes up your brain so bad. Yeah, Benadryl is the same thing. I'm able to fall asleep. I'm not able to stay asleep. You don't get chronic stomach pains when you over abuse weed for long periods of time? No, dude. I probably smoke like an ounce of weed. Well, me and my girlfriend, an ounce of weed a week, or maybe 10 days, every 10 days. So, and that's like maybe with edibles and with a pen or something as well. So no, I was smoking a ton of weed and I never had any issues with it ever. It was like, I was like literally using it to self-medicate, and it was fantastic because I was able to sit and focus on one thing. Like my ADHD is so bad that like I'll be mapping, like right now I'll be trying to map, and then I will get distracted with something, a notification, and then I'll forget what I was doing, and I'll just be doing 8 different things. The weed forces me to like focus on one thing. I can't focus on multiple other things. And so it's sort of like diet Adderall, except a depressant instead of meth, because I don't want to be on meth all the time. I thought Scott said weed is fine, then why quit? Just because I said I've been perpetually high for 3 years, and I just wanted to see kind of what my baseline is and get my tolerance back down to 0. I've been spending so much money on it too. It's just like, No, my lungs aren't cooked. That's the crazy part, is I'm in the gym all the time. I am doing athletics all the time. So no. Good news is smoking like that doesn't mess up your lungs if you're constantly active. Now, smoking cigarettes is terrible for you, and like that will mess up your lungs. That's like tar and shit you're getting in there, but weed is not as bad nearly. Aren't you lazy and passive after weed? Yes, I am. I am lazy and passive compared to manic and aggressive if I'm not. So there's like, it's like pick your poison. You need to build the Tegrity farm. Tegrity Technologies, baby. We've transcended the weed business. Now we're making AI and stuff. Scott, hey, thank you, brother, for your podcast. Do you think Russia will actively participate in the military action against Taiwan, given that Taiwan abducted a Soviet ship and imprisoned sailors? Probably not. I don't think that there's probably ever going to be a conflict for Taiwan. I think you guys are looking at the wrong area. Don't look at Taiwan. Taiwan is indefensible. It's an island. It's cut off. It's already part of China. The U.S. is not going to step in to defend it. Look at the Philippines. Look at Thailand. Look at Cambodia. Look at Myanmar. Those are the areas where you're probably going to see conflict. Like I think the Philippines are going to become the new Ukraine for China. Yep, China does not need to invade Taiwan. Taiwan is on their side. And if they did want to invade Taiwan, they wouldn't really have to invade. They would just surround it. They would just surround it and cut it off. And then anybody who you say, if you come to try to break this blockade of Taiwan, which is recognized as China, even by the United States, even though we don't, but we do in our on paper, the one China policy, it's a war. So if you want to come and get nuked for Taiwan. That's what you need. That's what they would basically do, I believe. And then as that's going on, down south in the South China Sea, where the 7- line or the 9- line, whatever the South China Sea area where China is trying to control, that's where you're going to see the conflict. That's where you're going to see conflict with the Philippines and stuff down there. I cut through the BS. I hope so, friend. I hope I'm not BSing you guys. I don't make enough money to BS you. I do this for basically for free now. I just come on here like once a week and have a good time talking to you guys. So I'm going to do more live streams, actually. I know I've said this last time, and I want to do the small live streams that are just more casual, and we can talk about working out or just whatever. We have, just like a variety stream. But like I said, I quit weed and my insomnia has been so bad and I've been so tired. Today was like the first day since last stream that I was like, okay, mentally I can go talk for an hour and 10 minutes. One of the dash lines could be 9, could be 10, could be 11. You believe Philippines will be the next conflict? I believe that we will use a vassal in the South China Sea the exact same way we used Ukraine. And we're already seeing the conflict, right? Thailand, Cambodia, the civil war in Myanmar. That's a lot of U.S. interference in the Chinese region, right? Trying to create issues on the Chinese border and put them in the same situation that the Russians are in. I think it's going to be much more difficult with the Chinese, and I don't think it's going to work out the way that the United States wants it to. I love you too, bro. Oil and gas rights are the big deal in the Asian seas. Not only the gas rights, but also the international shipping that goes through there. It's like 70% of the world's shipping goes through the South China Sea. So it's incredibly important to the Chinese economy, the global economy. Look, can you guys see how bloodshot my eye is? That's what happens when you don't sleep. Let's see those biceps, big guy. Russia claims they captured Druzhivka near Borova, Alexandra, near the Vovocha River. I haven't seen any geolocations, and a lot of the Russian sources aren't saying that they've gotten that far. So I don't think that they've captured that much. UBS, Scott, and trying to pretend America is at least as strong as Russia, which it's not in the slightest. I mean, it depends on what you mean by strong. The U.S. is just designed for a very specific kind of war, right? We have aircraft carriers. We're meant to project power across the globe. In a ground war, we probably would not fare as well as the current Russian military. Our drone technology is very, very far behind the Russians right now. But the U.S. has the geographic edge, right? We were protected by 2 oceans and allies to the north and to the south. So we don't really have to have a large ground army, and we shouldn't be doing invasions all over the world. What we really should have is a fantastic Air Force, which we do, and the means to project that Air Force around the globe, which we do. And that's what you do when you're the hegemony and when you're fighting terrorists, right? You don't want to invade a country and be stepping on IEDs and stuff when you could just fly a drone over and take somebody out. So it depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about a counterterrorism army, we have a fantastic counterterror army. If you're talking about an army that's built for large-scale industrial warfare, no, that's not what we have. And that's not what we need, because that's not what we get into, right? If you pick and choose your battles because you're the hegemony and you get to pick on narco boats in the Caribbean Sea, which I haven't talked about, the U.S. just killed some narco guys that were moving in international waters, which is, I don't know how you can do that. That seems like a crime, right? No trial, just extrajudicially killing criminals is interesting, but whatever. Yeah, no, I think that it's like the U.S. has better stealth technology than Russia does, so they're able to avoid radar detection, and there's just like certain things are better for the Americans than they are for the Russians, just plain and simple. There's no arguments about it. It just depends on the context of the battle that we're looking at. Yeah, but I don't listen to MODs. If Russia's defense ministry announced they took something, they are pretty sure they're not going to lose it. Ukraine made claims that Russia captured stuff that hadn't, and that just the claim then recaptured. Yeah, I just don't listen to MODs. I listen to what they say, but I don't like take that information as factual. Just because I will never trust an MOD, and I will really never trust a government. I think that they lie. That's what they do. They just lie because they can. So why wouldn't they? Everything is a lie. Just assume that. How do you create a non-retarded YouTube audience capable of intellect and reason? Probably by your content being so highbrow and educational that retarded people get bored. But I can't do that. I don't have the energy or the intelligence probably to deliver super, super boring garbage to my 8 viewers who are interested. No, I'll talk to 3,200 people in a very retarded and approachable manner. The hypersonic tech is lacking here as well. Yes, but also, what do you need a hypersonic weapon for? It's like you say it's lacking, but what are they going to use that on? If they use it on Russia or China, it's a nuclear war, right? So you don't really need it for that. And are you going to use it on some tent in the Middle East? No, right? So, yeah, hypersonic tech is lacking, and sure, you'd want it, and it can be air defenses and whatever, but also the U.S. can fly a B-2 over Iran and blow up their nuclear facilities, right? Didn't need a hypersonic missile for that. All right, guys. I'm getting sort of tired. I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you for watching. This has been episode 169, nice, of Calibrated with Scott. I appreciate you all so much. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you are a true fan, you will share it with your stupid group chat or whatever you're in, just to help me out. I appreciate you all so much. Take care. Have a blessed week. I think I'm going to do a live stream tomorrow. I'm going to it won't be a map update one. It'll just be one of these where I come in and casually talk to you guys. We can talk about anything. So be on the lookout for that. I'm going to do it later in the evening, though, for my American audience. So sorry, Euro Bros, you might not be there for that one, but I'll do one for you guys as well. You just got the early live stream today with all the updates. So take care, be safe, and I will see you guys on the next one.